we were at is not coincidence at all. Every shake that we do, it has a very specific effect in reality. So
Right. So what do you
yes.
think happened then? Because we were light, love, and positivity. So shouldn't that attract that?
Well, that's a very interesting question. And actually, it does. However, sometimes when there are a lot of interests,
Hmm.
surrounding, in
Hmm.
order for that positive thing to translate literally, there needs to be some movement,
Hmm.
and the topics that we are talking about and sharing are normally connected to a lot of interests, so of course the feedback is not going only to be, directly from a mirror of harmony, because there
Hmm.
in itself in the conference
Hmm.
there was a lot of energy moving, so it was a
Hmm.
mirror of everything. And also, when we were talking about full disclosure, we were talking about opening up, like putting
Hmm.
everything there. And
Hmm.
this hurricane thing has brought a lot to the light, like the level of implication that the thirst of power can lead people to act in very specific forms, so uh, I mean, like, that's another side of
Hmm.
how all of this has turned out, like being so evident, all the manipulation that was going on, then also being us capable to unify
Hmm.
onto the extent that we transform the
Hmm.
result of what was going to happen. By the time that the hurricane touched the coast, not only in Florida, in Mexico as well, in Yucatan and other places,
Hmm.
it was not any longer category 5. It had
Right. It came
decreased
down
all
to
the way
Cat
to
3.
3.
Right.
Exactly.
But when
Exactly.
you're 10 feet away from the beach, you know,
Yes.
so
Yes.
we're going to talk, but I'm going to start popping in comments and questions. Casey, I'm not familiar with. I think she might be one of yours, or he might be one of yours. Casey's here.
Yes.
Occult
Yes.
Examiner is here, and Occult Examiner said, I have folks on the ground in Appalachia, and I'm in the foothills. Bad stuff going on. Yeah, so there's a lot of the thing with FEMA and everything going on. Ugh. And then there's flooding in Canada right now. Area 51 flooded. Can you believe that? Area 51 flooded.
I
And
can't believe it. I
yeah,
can't believe it.
you
I
know,
told.
Hurricane Milton, where it started was there hasn't been a hurricane that started in the Gulf of Mexico for 124 years that came to hit us. And it was dead on going to Tampa. It was going to hit us direct. We evacuated. But what happened is it went south and it went to where we were for the conference.
Yes. Yes. Well, I actually was commenting on something that one of the reasons why all those hurricanes are continuously happening. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
when you live nearby the coast, well,
Mm-hmm.
that's an option. The
Mm-hmm.
thing is that there are very specific places that it's very often,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes like at a scale that, it's high unlikely to be like like this time. So I was tuning into that the Bermuda Triangle is a big factor on it, because as we know, those are portals, and
But we
those
know is the
portals.
Bermuda Triangle has a pyramid down there that's functioning, right?
Yes. Yeah, there are many artifacts. There are many
Mm-hmm.
artifacts. Actually, some of them were created as artificial Merkabahs to amplify or accelerate the let's say the evolution of the Earth's Merkaba, to transform it into something else. And the thing is that they accelerated it so much that it then reproduced the opposite effect, and then instead of generating a high frequency, a lot of beings started to come through that. So I do believe, and what I have perceived and received and remembered, is that those portals are taking advantage in many ways, and one of those ways is actually like rushing all that frequency, all that energy to those areas
So
because they
you
are
think
so
it was
important.
something good that went bad instead of people that are bad creating this?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, again, the thirst of power. You know, sometimes that can blind you. You know, it's like you can lose track.
Mm-hmm.
Of a balance, of harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that um, personal welfare actually led to not take into consideration the implications of what could turn out from this. It's like AI, it's like AI, the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the purpose, the intention might turn out good. The thing is
Mm-hmm.
that there is such a thin line in between what is actually going to benefit generally and what it's only going to benefit a few, you
Which
know?
is perfect because this comment just came in. What is the point of being able to produce hurricanes? They will only affect a small part of the land mass. Well, it's not just hurricanes, it's earthquakes, it's other things. It's kind of hard to generate a global event. I mean, the elites do it, but a weather event, I should say. So, what is your thought on that?
Well, for me, for instance, there are very specific areas that hold. There are stargates and portals all over the earth. However,
Mm-hmm.
there are hierarchies of importance. And for instance, if they have chosen Florida for Area 51 and among many other things, because of course there are also other places like Sedona, which are very important energetically speaking. However, when it comes to Florida, there are also stargates. There is a lot of there are a lot of interests on those areas, and they are energetically fulfilling a very specific purpose, that when that purpose is being affected, then it derives into let's say a gap or a void generated that can actually generate a huge transformation. Because within this matrix, let's say that, okay, it's there are a lot of things imposed, there are a lot of things going on, manipulated, and so forth. However, flipping the coin, when they are again, like extrapolating and generating something, it can actually blow into their faces, because there is a gap, a feature that is generated in which actually we can action, and make it different. So I do believe that if they choose those places and just a small amount of people, there are many interests, like there are political interests, there are economical interests, ET interests, there are many interests going on.
Let me ask you a question that I've been meaning to ask somebody, and I think you might be able to answer it. So we know how, like, the politicians in America, or just in general, they decide whether people go to war. They vote on it if you go to war. Is
Uh-huh.
there any karma that is attached to that for them doing that, for sending people to die? And if so, how would they pay it back?
Well, this is a very interesting question. How I believe it is, they they have a guide of the do's and the don'ts,
Mm-hmm.
and they are normally taking it to the edge, to the
Mm-hmm.
borderline. For instance, if they are hiding a lot of information, like universal laws say, or
Right.
like all the ET groups that are actually leading most of the other ET races. Some people call it the intergalactic confederation, others intergalactic federation, and so forth. But they like these laws say that you shall always, if you know something, you
Mm-hmm.
shall always put it out, otherwise it generates a lot of consequences to you. So that's
When you
why.
say they push it to the end, That's why they do things like Revelation of the Method, where they tell us in advance through movies, TVs, and stuff, right? Because they think it
Exactly.
offsets the karma. Does it?
Exactly. So then they wash off their hands, and then they say, "Well, we're putting out the information, but they don't notice." Well, now it's
But
different.
does that deflect karma or no?
Well, they are playing with fire.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing with fire. They know how all these tactics function. So that's why they have prevailed, or they had prevailed for so long. The thing is that when the other part becomes aware of it, then it comes as that, then the thin line that they are not crossing, they're just in the edge. Now they are crossing the edge. Why? Because as long as the other part is unconscious about that, then
Mm-hmm.
it's nobody's fault, you
Would you
know
would you consider paying back your karma as a sort of what they say purgatory is supposed to be? Would that
Hmm.
kind of be like the same thing? Like the religious obviously manipulated and twisted it, but would you consider it being the same idea?
um that's also a very interesting question. I love it. For instance, if we look at purgatory as this compressed bubble of reality, like this realm where there are suspended consciousnesses that are oscillating in between an amnesiac state and actually remembering, like when I say in between an amnesiac state, is because like not knowing where they are.
Mm-hmm.
However, they keep on reproducing what they did wrong. So I do believe that some of them are sent there, and some of them, but yet then again, this limbo, to say it somehow, that purgatory, are different matrices
Mm-hmm.
imprisoning those consciousnesses and
Mm-hmm.
making them see repeating again and again and again the same images, the same screen memories of what they did, until they become aware they are experiencing that you
So
know
would that be considered another dimension?
Yeah, I would say it's another dimension, and but not as we say, like the nine dimensions, like the main. It will branch from
Mm-hmm.
the sixth dimension. Actually,
Mm-hmm.
it will branch
Okay.
of the sixth dimension. Yeah.
Okay.
In between,
So
actually, it's very
mhm,
interesting because the
sure.
technology of the fourth dimension is used, and the laws of the sixth dimension are used to construct it, and from the fourth dimension to reproduce it.
Gotcha. Okay, so I invited you on, and you have some stuff that you want to talk about. But I want to talk about the Mundi Christ, and I'm going to put it up in a minute. But can you just let everybody know what you have prepared for today, the slides, and what you have prepared to talk about?
Okay, sure. Well, there are not many slides, I must say, uh, from now, but the the images that I want to show to you, they are about the Dendera zodiac, well,
Then that
commonly
okay.
known as the Dendera zodiac. The time that I have lived in Egypt, or when I live in Egypt, I usually go to all these temples, like very often, and normally nest around them. So, in the case of the Dendera temple, located in Alcurna, this is a very vivid and alive structure. You can still feel the imprint and uh, pulsing through all the electric current of the devices underground.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is known as this table showing the zodiac, and not only the zodiac, also like mapping a lot of the star systems. It's not anymore the original in Dendera, when Napoleon went to Egypt and do a lot of things there,
We
including
literally have a picture of Napoleon standing next to the Sphinx with the sand up to its neck.
Well, I haven't seen that.
Was it
Hmm.
Napoleon? I think it was Napoleon. Yeah, it wasn't technically like a camera. It was called a daguerreotype. It was an early form of it. But
Okay. Hmm.
hmm
Well,
so
you know that he stayed also a lot of the nights in the pyramid. He was initiated there,
I have.
So anyway,
Anyway, so this is Mundi's Christ, right? This is Leonardo da Vinci's Christ. It's the most expensive painting in the world.
yeah, it's
Um,
Salvatore Mundi, which is the savior of the world in
mhm,
Italian, and we can see that is the physiognomy, the features, the face features of Joshua,
mhm,
and yet he's wearing a female garment, indumentary, you know,
mhm,
and he's holding what normally is has been considered as a crystal ball. However, we can also see that the picture, even though it's very old, it was restored. So the fact that he owning so many genius skills and
mhm,
not reproducing that or uh, like painting that bowl in a very
mhm,
precise form. You can see
mhm,
that it's even like fussy in the part that it's around the dress. So yes, it can be a crystal ball, and also it can be a plasma orb.
mhm.
And
Third
now,
Eye Tribe says the 3 stars. She mentioned the 3 stars that are here, guys. You really have to look into it. You can go on Google and pull up this image, but there are 3 distinct stars within the orb. Can you explain to everybody what it is?
sure, well, what I have decoded from it is that it fits perfectly to the astrum of the summer triangle. Astrum is considered a star system that is not precisely a constellation. It can even be the communion of stars belonging to different constellations, each one. Yet they get to form a very peculiar and precise pattern that you can easily see from here. It's
Mhm,
very evident. So they use this a lot for navigation, not only in the sea, also, like to navigate in spaceships.
mhm,
And in the case of the summer triangle, as its name says it's obviously because it's more evident throughout the summer due to the proximity of the sun with these constellations.
Some
And
people will say it's part of the constellation Leo. That's what I've been hearing online, and I wanted to get your
yes,
thoughts on that.
yes, I've heard that as well. And also, of course, that's a possibility. In Nevertheless, how I precisely see, and the more that I tune into and connect, because it even leads to Tartaria, you know,
Mm,
like when you relate it to the Sober Triangle, it even leads you to Tartaria. So yeah, it can be Leo. A lot of people say that Joshua was born in Leo originally, not in December, as how the Vatican imposed
mhm,
as a dogma. Uh, However, if we looked at it as the summer triangle, it also leads to the fact that he might be showing that he was born in summer, and also being a Leo, So there is like, if you see as this figure, as this trine a star figure, as
mhm,
the summer triangle, it also fits in the fact that he could be pointing out to Leo, him being a Leo, or being born in July and August, or within, whether in July or August, to
mhm.
connect with Leo. However,
Right.
and this is the most interesting part of it is that, for instance, if we take into consideration not only the 12th zodiac sign, zodiac, if we take also the 13, then using Leo would be more limited in perception, because
That's right, because then you're talking Vedic. And when you're talking Vedic, that's not whole sign, that's real size.
yes, exactly. So then again, if we use or see there the summer triangle, then it's a wider range of what this encoded painting mean. And actually what I have received is that, that Leonardo would encode his paintings, that if you use a very specific um, lasers or lights, you can actually see behind the surface of the painting. And what I receive, and what I'm quite sure, is that if that is done, or mainly it has been, perhaps it has or already been done, if you put a scanner on that painting, it has a map. It has a map that takes to a even deeper layer of that connection to
Oh my
Tartaglia.
God, that's what they used to do. They used to draw over things, and then as you peel it back, there's layers to paintings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Exactly. And he did that a lot because he knew someone or many would be decoding his
Mhm.
pictures, his paintings. It was a way to put out the information that perhaps he could not, due to loyalties, express, like deliberately. And also he was having fun. He was a genius. He was having fun. He was saying, let's see who will find. Because for instance, I
I
love to
think Da
encode
Vinci
things.
might have literally been the most accomplished person that ever lived. I mean, he was just a master of every subject.
Yes, yes, I love him. I remember one time he came to my dreams. Oh, well,
Oh
a
yeah?
couple of times. Yeah, yeah. And he was sharing with me very beautiful messages. But anyway, so he loves to encode. He loves to encode, and he loved to
I was
encode.
gonna I was gonna
Different
start talking about what you wanted to talk about, but let's talk about this because I've talked about this for astrology since we're on Da Vinci. Tell me what you
Yes.
see.
Uh, well, I have never put, like time to decode this one. It's
Okay.
interesting because it's the second time this week, well, not this week, but within the 7 days range, that this picture has popped out to my field. So perhaps it's
Okay.
time to. Well, I see like many things, like the Mary Magdalene next to Jeshua. I see the three um, it- like windows behind him that are related also to the pyramidal structures all around
That's
the
right.
world. I see in front what represents the Ark of the Covenant, that thing that is just in front of him. I do believe that it's the Ark of the representation of the Ark of the
Oh my
Covenant.
God, I never noticed it. I never noticed it. I was always looking at the table, that white thing in the front.
Yes, yes, it has nothing, and it also leads me to that painting of this other famous artist, which is the Arcadia, you
Hmm.
know, the shepherds of Arcadia,
Hmm.
that it's very similar, and they say they refer to it as an ark,
Hmm.
So yeah, I can see the ark just in front of him, and yeah, I mean, if we count 12 disciples, then it's quite sure that it's related to the 12 constellations, and I would love
Correct.
to listen. What do you have to say about that?
So I've only done some of this from what I understand, but basically you have four sets of three. So it's the seasons, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
like everything always is. and the year starts in Aries all the way on the left and ends at Pisces all the way at the right. If you look at Aries all the way on the left, he's wearing green because Aries is when snow melts and then the green starts growing and it's lush. So it starts off showing that. And then next is Taurus. I haven't figured that out, but if you skip it, you go to Gemini. And Gemini is holding his hands up like this, showing that he's twins, showing that he's two. Then there's Leo, and Leo is pointing to the throat of Mary Magdalene to show she doesn't have an Adam's apple, to show that she's Virgo. That's what I think that is. And then you have Yeshua. And then after Yeshua, after Virgo, you have Libra, the scales of justice, and that's what the dude's doing. So I've played with this a little bit. I haven't gone too deep into it, but that's basically the kind of thing that I see.
Well, I love it. I love it. I'm looking forward to seeing what else you will discover. But yeah, that's the thing, like people who love to encode are waiting for people who love to decode, like us, to be there, because I don't know about how about you, but I do love to encode myself.
It's my favorite thing to do. Yes, and it never fails. We were at a park called Legoland yesterday in Florida. It was me, Lucy, and her daughter. And one of the rides was Egyptian, and they had hieroglyphs everywhere. And me and Lucy were talking to each other, and we were like, Isha could probably read this entire wall like I decode the Bible. You probably just look at it and you go, I understand this whole thing. And it's incredible. It's wonderful. So we have a comment. Susan, possibly used convex mirror in a dark room. The image would be upside down as you paint. I don't know. I've never thought of that. I have seen people that paint upside down, and that blows my mind how they do that.
Well, actually, for me, that's one of the master keys to comprehend how this reality functions, because how our eyes perceive reality is upside down, and then
absolutely, the image is inverted from the cone. Yes,
exactly. So perhaps, and even a friend in common, Zach, sent to me, like a small video about someone who says that the reality actually is upside down. I mean that what we consider as north is south, and what we consider as south is north, because precisely everything is flipped around, So then I've always thought that the fact that we perceive reality inverted is pointing out that we within this hologram, are not precisely aligned like how it would be, because it's a hologram, So then again, in order to align to the reality beyond that hologram, that simulated reality, then we will have to invert ourselves through the mirror. And that's something that the Toltecs, the Mayans also talked about, like the mirror code. And this can extend in many ways.
Well, we know that Da Vinci wrote backwards, right? He wrote mirror coded. Yes. That's how he wrote. Why would he do that? Were there no mirrors back then? Were people not able to read? What was was like how you perceive the upside down of the cone and how it projects the light when it hits the back of the retina? I mean, behind the eye, and then it's upside down, and then your eye converts it. Is it the same thing with Da Vinci and the people that paint upside down? Are they just tapping into the origin of what's really going on?
I do believe that. And honestly, for instance, I don't, but I can perhaps, like think is that at that time, Leonardo was was genius, the rest of the people was, there was very intelligent people, but, like perhaps not that could compare to his level of intellect. So he was safe on that, if he didn't want his things to
he was smart enough to know that at the time he lived in, he couldn't just openly talk about this.
No, perhaps he would, instead of being famous and popular, he would have turned out as a lunatic, like something crazy, like the Marqués de Sade, or I don't know.
Yeah. Third Eye Tribe said, I can't believe the Vatican even let him work. I mean, like all the Ninja Turtles work there. Like Raphael, for example, the Raphael, the Stufetta del Babiena in the Vatican is where the papal bath is. and the wall was painted by Raphael. That Raphael in 1516. And there was just all sorts of cherubim, there were angels, there was all sorts of Greek gods on it, and they actually scrubbed it and had to paint over it. But that's the origin of it. So
Yeah. Yeah, well, once they did that, then they learned that they needed to decode it, to encode it, you know?
yeah.
So I'm quite sure that if they take all his paintings and then put that scanner, it will point out to very, very important things. And in the case of Salvator Mundi, I do believe that it's pointing out to the map where a map related to Tartaria.
Okay. So
Very
let's bring it into that then. Okay.
sure.
So if you want to share your screen, I could bring it up for you. Let me just see if there's any comments we can. Let me see.
Sure.
Anything related? Third Eye Tribe is a big fan.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Okay. So if you want to share your screen, we can definitely tie because now we're going to talk about the Dendata.
Yeah, sure. Just let me.
Was the Dendata Sumerian or before that?
Uh, Look, I do believe there are contemporaneans, like contemporary one to another, because there is a lot of shared codes in relation to those two stages. The Sumerian calendar. It is mostly said that it was the first one, that it was before the Ndera, but
Mm-hmm.
like the one in Ndera, but I cannot be. I must say that I do believe that they are contemporary one to another.
Okay.
Let me just, yeah. Well, how about you? What do you believe?
I haven't dived into the Dendata Zodiac. I just know that every time I look at something, they're finding new, deeply aged, very accurate astrology from thousands and thousands of years ago when supposedly they didn't have telescopes or things to see the world or just
I
it's
know.
incredible what we were able to achieve, you know. I always talk about this. One of my favorite quotes that I write in
Yes.
my one of
Uh-huh.
my favorite quotes that I write in my book that I write is from John Dominic Crossan, and he says, "It's not that the ancients told literal stories and we're now smart enough to take them symbolically. It's that they told them symbolically and we're now dumb enough to take them literally." And I do believe there is a dumbing down of everyone now, but I think we will prevail in the age of Aquarius. But that's just what I think. So if you want to share your screen, we could jump right into Dendata and
Sure.
blow some people's minds.
Well, now that you have mentioned that about the area of Aquarius, because it shows it all here, um, I when I started to tune into to the Dendera, I call it a space-time table, because for me it's quantum machinery. It's actually not showing the past; it's showing the present, and from this holofractographic reality, I and how I've
Can you
the
explain that
more
word to everybody? Because you use it all the time. And I don't know if anybody here knows what
sure,
that is. Holofractographic. Can you explain that?
sure. Look, the difference in between holographic and holofractographic is that, for instance, a hologram relates to a bidimensional projection that only takes into consideration the constants space and time, and then they communing into one another, what we would call continuum of space-time. However, it's mostly showing it at a bidimensional reality. That's why a lot of people are peeking into that the earth is flat, and because this hologram, this matrixy hologram, is by matrixy I mean the simulation reality. It's has an very specific algorithms enhancing that attunement to that unconscious projection of reality from a bidimensional form. And you might say, but how? Like, we are three dimensional. We cannot conceive ourselves as bidimensional. No, the thing is that, for instance, all these images that we get to see, they're flat. That same reality, that same way that most people perceive reality as, like very dual. It's, like positive and negative. And then they don't take into consideration that they are one same force, just the different, showing a different spectrum of its light, So it's encoded.
Do I have Talbot's book up here?
I'm sorry, what?
I'm looking to see if I have Michael Talbot's book up here. The what is it called? The Holographic Universe that came out 15 years ago. That seminal book. That's where we were like 20, 30 years ago.
Well, and a lot of people actually right now are relating to that we live in a hologram. And yes, like, for instance, from a unified consciousness, it's just the form of how you perceive it, from what perception you're coming from. So, for instance, now, if you're looking at it beyond the simulated reality, then taking into consideration that everything is a fractal, and that, like, those matryoshkas, those Russian dolls, like there is one inside another and so forth,
But isn't everything perception? Don't we manifest what we see?
Yes. And the thing is that's why, for instance, if you're just only perceiving a dualist form of life, it's because you are not expanding your consciousness into a trine form of perception, or 4D, fourth density, or fifth density, and even like moving forward. So so that's why, it's like, it's your truth, and that's the beauty of when we get to actually generate that empathy that will open the mirror code, because then we're capable to see that person in front of you who's perceiving reality at a bidimensional scale, it's just showing part of a spatiotemporal constant that you were at some point experiencing.
Well, we think about this like colorblind people, right? I mean, they don't see the whole range of colors. They might not see brown, they might not see red, they might not see blue or green. That's their reality that they're projecting. And that's a reality. That doesn't mean they're lacking something. That's their reality that they're tuned into.
Exactly. And if you see something even very interesting, how blind people, like that were born blind, how they see reality. They see reality in geometries. Geometries,
it's
so
funny
they're
because
not picking up. They're not picking up on the distorted hologram.
When blind people get their sight, the first thing they have the most trouble with is depth perception. They always like bump into things because they're it's new to them. They have to learn, and it's the same thing with people who are deaf. These are all different realities that were existing, but they're all correct.
Exactly. It's the space. Why? Because the senses give the dimension of the space, So that's why also we can manipulate the space through our senses, all these psionic skills and so forth. And
that's why everyone says to look within, because all the power is already inside us, and everything is trying to do, the government, education, everything is trying to hide that from us. The pineal gland and all that. It's amazing.
It's to distract, exactly to distract, and you were asking about the holofractal, just to finish, like holofractographic, then holofractographic will be, or is, that we live in a hologram that replicates itself infinitely, because it comes from the source to all. And that's the thing about the hologram, it sort of also projects into a finite reality, like all this framed reality, how it was reproduced through the simulation. So when we are talking about expanding our consciousness, then assuming that we're fractals, it's part of the equation, so that's why it's holofractographic.
Okay. Did I ever explain to you? Let me explain to you why I hate religion, why my work is geared towards the truth, and the truth is showing me away from religion. When you join, the first thing they tell you, and it doesn't matter what religion you're in, is that there is an external savior that you need to worship. The last thing they will ever do, they will never do this, is to tell you to look within. And that's my biggest problem.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of the Salvator Mundi. Could you just put it first before I show the, please?
You want me to put the Mundi back up?
Yes, please.
All right, hold on. Where is he? Oh, I have to maximize it. Hold on. There we go. It should pop up now.
Thank you.
There he is. Okay, let's do this.
Okay, so that's the beauty about the Salvator Mundi, because the name we're talking about the Savior, and then you see Yeshua, and then you say, of course, Christians, Catholics, whatever. And the thing is that he's showing the inner mastery of plasma body, like being able to condense your plasma and actually project bubbles of reality of your own universe, because every condensed plasma, let's say orb, sphere, it's a universe, and you can project the information that you choose to, and send it as bubbles of reality. You're sending your own emission to the space network and traveling through all the plasma suspended within the space that is interconnecting us all. And that's why he's dressed as a woman, one of the reasons. So not only showing their feminine, his feminine and masculine aspect, because I'm also quite sure that if they do another scan, you will see Mary Magdalene behind his face.
Oh, wow.
You can even see it from here. You see those.
He is very soft in his features.
Exactly, because that he wanted to do that, to generate that androgynous form, which is the level of energy that is generated in order to create the plasma field, because your feminine and your masculine and your feminine become so entangled that they are capable to go beyond extrapolation and meet at the center, generating the 0 point energy through the vacuum force. So, and then you say, why okay, so that sphere is plasma, that's an orb. Then why is he pointing out to the constellation of, in this case, what I am proposing, the summer triangle? Well, the first thing is that we know that Leonardo da Vinci went a lot to, he was for a long period of time in the Giza plateau and doing his thing, and connecting with all the Egyptian civilization. Also, he was initiated. There are some stories that he was also initiated in the Grand Pyramid, and so he knew a lot. He talks about the Rostau. He talks about the Giza plateau and the connection to Taurus. So anyway, this is just one of 3 triangles that there are as these asteroms. Like the 3 main pyramids of the Giza plateau. Now, pyramid in Greek is pira, which is fire, and myth, which is the center, which is the fire in the center. And that's what happens through the Planck fire charge collapse. When we actually ignite our plasma body, we're generating the inner fire, So, and why he chose the central one? Well,
is that why it burns in your solar plexus?
Yes, because we are becoming the stars. We're becoming the stars, and the moment that we acknowledge our origin, that we were originated from a black hole, then we say, okay. And then if reality is fractal, it comes in fractals, then we have black holes within. And if we remove the critical hypocritical relation to the black holes, that they are s- massive sucking forces that leave nothing behind, then we can actually connect to the true behavior of black holes, which is
Mhm.
that that's where life is originated, and that every dantian, every chakra, every portal within our body, every proton within our molecular structure is a black hole. That's how they are entangled to one another. So then we can actually see that the sun has a black hole. And in order to project ourselves to that black hole, and that's how the ancient used to do in the center of the earth, that's how they would travel
Mhm.
from the earth to the sun's black hole. We can see spaceships coming out from the sun and actually even sucking energy from the sun, creating more dark spots. So,
How do you tie in? Because I do want to get to your work too, but how do you tie in then solar flares to everything and what we're seeing going on with all that?
hmm, for me, what's happening right now in the sun is that there are a lot of interests on that star, that because that star has many layers. And if we say that it has a black hole in the center, then we could also question, and the earth has a black hole and the protons have a black hole, then we can question ourselves, like if it's quite inaccessible to gather,
Mhm.
like if it's really inaccessible to gather, or it's just a matter of having a just other body,
Mhm.
yet of course handling big amounts of plasma at a, let's say, fire scale, like it's not, it's electric current,
Mhm.
but then again I would go to something even more complex, that it's again the holofractographic reality, and how people is capable to touch fire, and how like right now, the pyrokinesis, and produce fire from their own hands, so then like you can say, okay, if there are so many interests in the sun, and even there are species like ET's species that call themselves Ra, as a title. Here, Ra was a title, as so Hathor, and as so even Osiris at some point, because those were not the original names; those are the Greek names, so they became titles. And there are the Ras, and they also are connected to even another another star system beyond this galaxy, and that is related, called to like the place of the gods. So
Mhm.
and then they came here. But anyway, the thing is that one of the biggest initiations in this reality was that, I mean, in ancient times, was to go from your black hole and project yourself to the black hole of the sun. Then you would entitle yourself as uh
So they're portals. They're portals basically.
Exactly, exactly. And now, as they are extracting huge levels of plasma from the sun, there are specific races that are extracting a lot of, not only plasma, also a lot of things, but they're extracting a lot of things from the sun. And also, the sun has its life cycle, so it's coming to an end. And then that's why also we reach now closer to the photons belt of Alcyon. We are closer, and because Alcyon is the biggest black hole from all.
Oh,
So
wow.
we are
I've
rotating.
read somewhere that when they're trying to explain black holes, they said it exists in two factions. Number one, your physical body in a black hole exists as your physical body, but at the surface level, like the top of a cup of coffee, your information is spread out as well.
Uh-huh.
That's
Your
so.
info. Yeah, you were saying I'm sorry, it cut out a little bit.
Oh, no, I was saying that in a black hole, supposedly, you exist as a body within the black hole if you were to go into one, but also your information is also spread thin at the top. So you exist in two locations within a black hole.
Hmm. Okay. Well, actually, yeah, and it makes sense because every time that we go everywhere, like even if we are walking, we are living on a spectrum of light wherever we go. That's why also people can attach to us because they tune into that spectrum that we are living behind, and then they try to attach to it consciously or unconsciously. So yeah, and that's why also one of the biggest keys why we can manipulate the space around us, because our information is spread everywhere, not perhaps not as Mika or as Isha, yet as the souls that have been here for a while, you
Mm-hmm.
know.
Kind of like
So
how we have a higher self with our other lives that we've lived, that when we pass, we can be like, oh yeah, I remember that. Hey, do you want to come back here? No? Okay, go somewhere else, kind of thing. So
yeah, yeah,
let's go ahead
yeah,
because
yeah,
we don't
yeah,
have
yeah.
like a ton of time left, but we have enough
Sure.
time to go through this. I'm adding
Okay.
your information
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. Okay.
Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
Sure. Hold on. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So you're gonna have to move it, but yeah, there it is. That's the Dendata, right?
Yeah, exactly. This is the Dendera zodiac, the known. And for instance, I'm sorry, it's just boom, zooming in and zooming out. Hold on. Okay. No, it zooms or there are too much. Okay, I think it's well. Here we see that we have the well, we have specific constellations, then we have the decans, then we have these specific numerical star values, that these are very important because they are algorithms that if you know how to read them accurately, they will show to you very specific timelines, or how to dive into this very specific space, well, how to influence very specific timelines in order, like through the spatio temporal um, continuum, in order to weaken some specific timelines and gain more restoration in specific constants, spatiotemporal constants that will actually benefit humanity. And all this is through interstellar mapping, all this is through plasma rising holofractographic projection of this piece, of this masterpiece, projecting it holofractographically and reading it and diving in very specific way through very specific form of how the tesseract functions. So having said this, um, for instance, here we see in the center that there is like in relation to the triangle. I'm sorry. I just wanted to show the full image, okay? Because the other one it's a little bit smaller. So here is the full image, and we can see that in the center we have the hippopotamus, the hypo, which is
Mm-hmm.
Serwet. It's related to the goddess of fertility, and in this case, they related it to Draco. She has her tongue outside, and if we drew a line, we will find many things that I have decoded. Actually, I have a course on that, how to use it, the space-time table as an oracle,
Mm-hmm.
and it's pointing out its tongue, and then we have what would be Ursa Minor, and which is Anubis, this small dog in the center. And then we have this trine figure constellation, which is Camelopardalis, which is Horus, the baboon, and type of fox, at least in this depiction. And actually, from depiction to depiction, they shift really big time, because in the original ones, the tales from Aries and the tale from this goat, which is not a fox, it's a goat, are tied together, you know? So, but anyway, of course, there are different depictions of this famous um, depiction of this famous zodiac. And well, just want to point out, like, even here, you see how we have, this is Pleiades here.
You're
This,
gonna have to zoom into it.
I don't want to deviate a lot from the topic, but look, here we have Pleiades. You will
Mhm.
say, but it's seven. Yeah, but some people also consider eight, and actually, it is.
Actually, there was 8, but I heard it became dimmer, and it's like hiding behind something.
Hmm.
I think
Well,
that's
there
what
you go.
happened to it.
Well, there you go. But here they represent it as eight, and you see how they, like, Aquarius is actually pouring water to it. So this represents that it's the area of Aquarius when we are going through, and actually that we are going through the Alcyon Photon's belt, and that's why we have 2,000 years to generate a big shift, which started in 2011. So, um, yeah, and I would also love to talk to you about other thing, but that's another topic. But anyway,
Hmm.
let me just zoom out and go to. Tell me if you see another picture. Are you looking at
Yeah,
another
got it,
picture?
got it.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
this is the triangle you were
Uh,
talking about.
yes, for instance, the summer triangle is actually this one, what we see here above,
Hmm.
the one on the top. We
Yeah.
have Cygnus, we have Aquila, and we have what it's Lyra. You will see that it's here represented with a man, which is very interesting. But like, then again, they're not all the figures are the same that are used currently. But it's pointing out to Ophiuchus and to Hercules. you know
Okay.
so then, and this is the triangle that fits perfectly in the image that Yeshua is carrying in the orb. And also, we know that the stars are made of plasma, so it's also a very form of it's an elusive form of connecting the plasma from the stars to the plasma that he's holding. And he's pointing out to a very important also uh, relation of an importance of this summer triangle. We know that in the ancient times throughout Kemet, the beginning of the year was celebrated precisely in the month of July, in 26. Well, what we know now as the 26th. It's the beginning of the year, and also for the Mayan, so they knew about time, and they were considering that the beginning of the year. So, and it was based in the alignment to Sirius, so he's also pointing out through the connection to Sirius. And actually, these triangles, for instance, the summer triangle.
Question: you mentioned Sirius.
Yes.
Sirius was not our binary star at the time, was it?
Mm-mm. Not at all. Not at all. No, a series. I like to name it as a trine star system. Even there could be more. Um, I always take into consideration three of them, like Sirius A, B, and C, and another planet that is black, Shilantia. and that is another code in relation to Urantia, like how the earth was also cold. Let's say that it's the feminine aspect and the masculine aspect. And we know that as a cosmic race, humans have a lot of founder genes related to Sirius. This is related to Isis, the gen Isis, the primordial gen is from
Mhm.
Sirius, even though
Mhm.
there are also other founders like lions and
Mhm.
dragons and so forth. However, what we know as the Mary and Jeshua, and it's a virginal form of conception, which is the parthenogenesis, which was quite used in the stage of the Atlantean time, and that's why the priestess would stay virgin, because they did not need at that moment to have coitus in order to produce life. Actually, they were trying to, in the first stage, to to achieve something different with the lineage, than all of the thing of Adam and Eve. It's
We know
just
this for a fact
resurrection.
because the XY gene for men, the Y gene, is disappearing.
Yes, yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's because also before the almost Homo sapiens
Mhm.
came into the picture, all men and women, from what we know as Homo denisova and other variations, hominid variations, were double X
Mhm.
chromosome. They would
Now,
have.
have you heard the idea that women's bone marrow used to produce sperm and women would just self reproduce? Have you heard that?
I had never heard about it. I've tuned and remember about the self reproduction. It's mostly related to the parthenogenesis, which comes also, like, for instance, if you dive into how bees reproduce, or geckos, or like, you will see that there is this asexual form of reproduction. I mean, bees and specific reptiles,
Mhm.
and yeah, so there is a way, that's why there is also, they have been feeding from that spectrum, the egregor of the battle in between genders, because there
Mhm.
is like this subtle mist of the feminine trying to impose over the masculine, like
Mhm.
matriarchy versus patriarchy.
Mhm.
Because but let's say that they enrouted that to the ego, all these are configurations that are embedded in the blueprint of creation of the human species
Mhm.
from
Mhm.
at a hologram basis,
Mhm. Mhm.
you know
I think that the other biggest problem that I have, I was raised Jewish, and I have a huge problem with them because they wrote the Old Testament, and one of the things that they did, that they changed from Egypt, was the equality of the genders and the divine feminine. Women were revered in Egypt because they were portals that brought life into it. And then in the Old Testament, the Jews changed it, and suddenly Eve ate the apple, and they caused all the sin in the world. And the problem is most of the population in the world believes that, and that we've gotten away from the divine feminine. And maybe the Y chromosome disappearing is sort of like, I don't know, balance coming back to what it was. I don't know.
Everything returns to its original nature. Everything. It's like, for instance, how all these hologram, because we were talking in the beginning about how they can configure it and get away with what they do, is that there is just in a specific time frame where incoherence can be sustained by pillars of truth, and that time for the manipulation to the chromosome Y. That's why it's what it means, the Osiris code of castration. It's
Mm-hmm.
talking about the penis, or the phallus is the the fourth leg of the chromosome. It's removed. And they put a golden phallus, which represents the Holy Spirit coming into and then creating a new breed, So, yeah, like it's everywhere. So if we see that the Y disappears and becomes double X, as it will, Jeshua, his DNA was double X. When they have the few remains of the things where he left his DNA in, they did a test and they found out that he's also double X in his chromosomes. So indeed, he was born through parthenogenesis. So
how do we get back to that?
Well, from my experience, it's all about upgrading our DNA, restoring our DNA. We
There's
are
12 strands,
inherently
right?
doing, yes, and when it mirrors, then it makes a fusion of, we have the 12 and then we have then 24, and then
It plugs into the chakras too when it's fully activated.
Into the 9. They only talk about 7 chakras. There are 9 chakras, and there are even more. Mainly 9 in the body. And also, I will be sharing some information that I have decoded from the Tree of Life, and it's remarkable how when you fulfill all the spheres of the numerical values, of the full spectrum, leads to very specific facts that connects to all ancient civilizations. And for instance, one of the cultures that were trying to actually break the dream spell were the Mayan, because most of the information that they were portraying comes from Pleiades, because it was a time system based on the configuration of the proximity and relation to Pleiades. And now we are in the Photons belt. So it's like the way to how to align and tune into the frequency that we are receiving from Alcyon sun, blue sun, after all these plasma that is coming through the solar flares, all these aurora borealis, because they will break the dream spell, because all these are it's related to the oniric field. It has a very oniric vibration, so they will end up restoring the true nature of what being awakened is. Because even though we are saying, okay, yeah, we are awakened, we know this is a simulation, yeah, and we are playing right now in it, like we are awake, like while being in the dream. So now when we fully awake from the dream, and we also do that from time to time when we go to hyperspace and do our thing and then come back, this is supposed to be something to be done collectively. Otherwise, we would be like the monks or other masters that have been initiated in all this process, all these ascension processes and techniques, yet they do it solo. And here we are doing something collectively. Of course, they are doing their job, because the only fact that they are bringing this into the field, they are planting those seeds, and if we connect to the space memory network, then we're capable to access to those files and actually embody them. That's how thin and beautiful is our reality. Yeah. And
you know what the amazing thing is, Isha?
what
Physicists are looking for that universal, well, they have a problem with gravity, but they're looking for that universal line of equation that explains everything. And they say that when they find it, it's only going to be one line long because everything fits together like a puzzle, is perfect and simple. The fact that everything is in chaos right now means that we don't fully grasp it and we're still working on it.
Well, now that you mentioned that, it brings me to chirality. And chirality is the nature of a lot of molecular structures, like chemical, like for instance, how the proteins are encoded. Chirality is the fact that our hands mirror to one another, but they cannot be overlapped because they are asymmetrical. So this is related to what you have said. It's like when we truly understand the nature of the mirror code, then we're capable to go through all those portals and generate negantropy within what we could call entropy through the chirality, So it's beautiful.
We got this comment from Rosalind. Sasha P. Dalber wrote on chemical and electromagnetic influences weakening human character in 3 generations. He called this a hormonageddon cycle. I find it interesting. So, do you have other slides?
No, this is the one that I wanted to share.
Okay.
No, I mean, I have many of them, but there are like topics that would take us like a long time. And I know that we have already extended on other topics, which has been amazing. We had many things to talk about.
We could do this. We literally did this for 8 hours on the beach.
Yes, exactly.
So
yes.
You're right, but it's a little different with interviews. So we're about an hour and 15 in, so we're about 15 minutes over. So Isha, please tell everybody that's listening, we have 78 people in here from 2:30 to 4 on a Monday. That's pretty good. Yeah, on a Monday. No one's home yet. So people will watch this later. So Isha, please tell everyone where they can find you and your work and anything you want to share.
Sure. Just before that, I just want to say, what does this mean? Because if we see we have the central triangle, which is actually the spring triangle connected to what is the nip in Leo, Regulus in Leo, which is one of the royal stars. We have Spica, and we have Arcturus. So this is a very important one. We see that it's the central one, even it's not seasonal centric as the summer one. It is mapped centric, and it is showing a pyramid, like the one that we see in where the red pyramid is. It's the Bent Pyramid. It's called the Bent Pyramid in Egypt. And it's not fully triangular. And here we see that the 2 other triangles are facing other ways. So it's like generating this energetic elongation. And it is actually, well, it would take me more. But anyway, it's pointing out to something very interesting, which is, I will just be brief on this, to Centaurus. And you know that there is a lot of saying that if we inhabit another planet, it would be related to Alpha Centauri, something like Alpha Centauri. But anyway, and just directly interconnect, and there are many other codes, many other codes below here. But anyway, then we have this line, and where the circle is pointing out to the circle. And here in the circle, that when you connect all these 3 triangles from their top to the center where they meet is precisely in the constellation Camelopardalis. And Camelopardalis is one of the unique constellations that have no mythos. Like, there the Greeks said, okay, let's name it Camelopardalis. We have no connection to the giraffe because that's what Camelopardalis means.
It's the Greek. Camel leopard, which is what the giraffe used to be called.
Exactly. And yet we don't have mythos about that. We have no connection with that, but let's call it Camelopardalis. No, there is a big code to it.
I'm pretty
Then
sure it's in Gemini too, right?
in Gemini, well, Gemini is here.
Camelopardalis, I believe, is in Gemini. So does that line up?
No, look, Gemini, you can see it here. You see?
Yeah.
But I'm expanding it. Okay, hold on. Let me expand it here. Oh. Gemini is here, okay?
They're the twins.
Exactly. And here we have Camelopardalis.
Okay.
And here we have another very important code, which is the Eye of Horus, which a lot of people have related it that it means the moon. For me, what it means is Theia. Yeah, that part of the moon that was before it, like was left in just the half of it. And there is a lot of speculations that the moon it's an fully artificial satellite from the very beginning. I will just say one thing. There are pictures of Aurora Borealis now hitting the moon as well. And if the moon was an artificial satellite, then it would not have a black hole generating enough magnetic emission to generate a magnetosphere strong enough to actually integrate and hit into it and create those aurora borealis.
The moon is purely magnetic, whereas the
Yes.
sun is electric.
Exactly. And you cannot generate an artificial effect coming from aurora borealis.
That's the male and the female, by the way.
Exactly. And now if we bring Nemesis to the field, that's also another interesting thing. But anyway,
we could do that another time.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Isha,
I'm
sorry, just to finish. These three point out to three beings, which is Horus, the falcon, the baboon, which is Tehuti in the Upper Egypt, which was the way to illumination.
Tehuti is
illumination. Yes, it's thought, but in Lower Egypt, in Upper Egypt, he was shown as a baboon, whereas in Lower Egypt, he was shown as an ibis.
Gotcha.
So one way was the path to illumination, and the other one was the completion of illumination. And here we have a goat in the original depiction, which also means that the goat is always pointing out to the top, the mountain. So we have three forms of ascension in this era, because it's marking right now, if we align to the true origin, the original north of the earth, this would be the North Star in Camelopardalis. And actually, if we go even way below the Eye of Horus, we will see that it's pointing out to this stage that just began in 2023 after Cetus, after Uranus stopped transiting Cetus, the constellation of Cetus. But anyway, yeah.
Cetus was the whale, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Fantastic. Isha, please tell everyone where they could find you and your work.
Hold on, because it's very funny. I'm just looking at myself. Okay, now I see you. I was in a zoom in. I was like, where is Mika? Where are you? Where they can find me? Well, I have my YouTube channel, which is Isha Arsateli Bien. My Facebook, Isha Arslib. You can write to me I'm giving online courses, one-on-one sessions. I have my upcoming first book in English. We have clothes. You will read all of these. Well, that's why I haven't shared my website, because we are putting all of this upgrades and actually in the page. So it's taking a little bit more than expected, to say it somehow, because it's a lot of information that we're putting in. So in the meantime, YouTube channel, Facebook, Instagram, And if you want to contact me directly, you can write to omnivision.hunuh, HUNUH, at outlook.com.
Right. And guys, if you want to go through me and just reach out to me to reach out to her, I can do that too. I could set it up.
Sure.
The last comment here, such a beautiful poem in the heavens that we have been robbed of. It is poetry. It's star poetry. It's all-star poetry. It's amazing.
Yes.
Isha,
Yes, it is.
you are the best. We just love you so much. And I want
Oh,
to have you back on when we have something different. I'm doing a marketing thing in about 15 days or give or take, and I'll be in New York for 2 weeks. But when I get back, I'll touch base with you. Okay.
sure. I will love that. Please say hi to Lucero. Love you guys. I'm happy to see you and have such an amazing talk.
Thank you. Tell Sean I say hello.
Yeah, sure. Okay. See you.
Bye.
Bye.